Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Today on Oklahoma Gardening, host Casey Hentges takes a stroll through the test gardens at the Botanic Garden at OSU to look at some winners for Oklahoma. We begin our tour of Oklahoma gardeners' sheds with a visit to an inside-out garden shed and garden in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Barbara Brown finds out how olive oil is made in Italy. An undergraduate researcher shows some of the painstaking processes that produce turfgrass research. And we get to meet a very special new Oklahoma gardener.
It's been another challenging year to garden in Oklahoma, and one of those big factors has been the rain. It seems like we've gotten way too much rain at times, and then there's been a few weeks where we've been hoping for some rain. We're standing here in our proven winners trial gardens, and this might not look like a typical garden. As you can see, it maybe is not the traditional pretty lush garden. These trial plots are actually intended to see how plants do in a low maintenance Oklahoma situation. So the plants are planted in plots and they get very minimal inputs. Other than some irrigation initially, there's not much maintenance done to these plants. After we look at these plants throughout the season, we start to evaluate how well they've done. Considering that there was so much rain, record-breaking rains when these plants were first planted, we can look around here and find some that were truly hardy in some of the heavy rain conditions as well as some of the heat that we've had. So we're going to evaluate some of these, and we want to showcase some that we have seen that really have stood out. The first one here is the Stovall. This is a cultivar called Whirlwind, and what I find really attractive about this particular cultivar is that it's just covered with these blue flowers. It creates a nice carpet of blue color. It's going to maintain a height of about 8 to 12 inches without any maintenance at all. It's great for those garden borders, perhaps along a sidewalk where you want to just cover and soften the edge of that concrete. Pentas are one of my favorite annuals to plant, and this one is called Sunstar Lavender. This is a new series that actually will be coming onto the market next season, so be on the lookout for it. Now, a lot of pentas, you might have to deadhead them in order to keep the old seed heads off and to keep encouraging that new growth. This particular one, you will not need to do that. It's going to continue to provide a lot of flowers. In fact, you can see some still coming on. It has continued to provide us with this color all season long, which is a nice addition. In addition to the color that you're going to have in your garden, you're also going to be attracting a lot of butterflies with these plants. Now, Sunstar comes in a range of colors, but this one is called Lavender, and you can see it's done really well in both our wet conditions as well as our summer heat. As if anyone needs another excuse to add a salvia into your garden, this one is called Rockin' Blue Suede Shoes Salvia, and it's an annual salvia, which means it's not going to come back next year. You're going to have to replant it. But you can just see the size of plant that you get in one season's growth. It gets to be about 2 to 3 feet tall. Now, we've missed the peak season just slightly on this one. You can see that there are some flowers still as it continues to bloom up that spike. But even after those light blue flowers fade and drop off, it leaves behind almost a black calyx. And so that still is going to give you some color interest in your garden. Now, what I find striking about this, especially this late in the season, is the grasshoppers have been ravenous in my personal garden, and I know a lot of our garden plants out here are showing signs that grasshoppers have found them. But if you look at this foliage, it still looks excellent and doesn't seem to appeal to those grasshoppers. While the grasshoppers didn't have an appetite for this plant, you can see the pollinators are loving it. We still have plenty of bees all over this plant, and butterflies, and hummingbirds will enjoy it in the heat of the summer as well. So like I said, this trial garden may not be the prettiest garden, especially this year with our excessive rains that we've had. You can learn a lot from trial gardens by walking through and seeing, with minimal input, those outstanding plants that you might want to add to your garden. You may recall earlier this season, we put a call out to you, our viewers, asking for you to share with us your home garden sheds and what makes them so special. We're excited to share these home garden sheds with you over the next coming weeks and find out what makes them so special. And hopefully you'll be able to take a few tricks home and add them to your shed as well. Today we're visiting one of our garden shed competition winners, and joining me today is Pamela Turnbull. And I just love your shed here. It's kind of turned inside out. You get to be out in the garden, but it's a nice, cool, protected area. Tell us a little bit about how this idea came about.
Well, I needed some place to house all my things and some place to pot and do things in the spring, but I wanted a place for relaxation.
Right.
Our backyard is all about family fun and just having a nice place to be, so I thought, let's utilize the back of John's shop, and so we had a friend build the cover for us, and then John built my lovely potting bench.
This is beautiful.
Out of actually some old lumber that came from, I think it was Pennsylvania. Some friends had brought it. They were transporting a horse walker, and they were using to support it. So we've had this big old wood. So he built this for me, and it's just a lovely place to come. By 2 o'clock, this is my haven, and I can lay here because it's all in this shade.
We're on the east side of the shed.
Yes, so it's just a fun place. And quite often I'll find him out here with all his saws set up, and in the cool place too. So we share this.
Very nice. Well, and I love how you've got your flower containers and things up here. So it's easy access, and I can't imagine potting out here. It just would be a really joy, I imagine. And with all good sheds, I mean, you have an amazing garden. We can't just come and look at your shed. Can we come take a look at your garden as well?
I'd do that for you too.
Great, thank you. So Pamela, you clearly enjoy being out in the garden. You have a lot of little areas to sit and enjoy. And here you've created kind of a privacy hedge almost out of blueberries. Tell me about this.
All right. Well, I do think that the garden has rooms, just like a house has rooms. And so this is our little eating area, our little dining area. And I tried to grow blueberries just out in the garden, and I didn't have much success.
Right.
So the minute I put them in pots where I could control the acidity and I could control the water, voila, beautiful blueberries. So I've had them in the pots for probably 7 years, just finishing harvesting them, and they are wonderful. And I think they're a very pretty bush.
They are. They're very, I love the colors that they come in. And it looks like you might have a couple of different varieties.
I do.
Here.
I have a couple of varieties, but
they're all doing well.
All doing well.
Excellent.
Yep.
So, and the containers aren't necessarily that large.
No.
They're not. They're manageable.
They're manageable. It's a daily drink, and they do just great.
Very good. So as we go around here, we're kind of in your backyard a little bit. I mean, again, just you've created some alleys and access points that are really nice. I'm drawn to this.
Well, this is kind of tip of the hat to Magnolia Garden. She has those little beds along her walkways, and I just thought it was charming, so I thought, let's do that. So this has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of experiment trying to find the plants that would not completely take over, but would do well. So this year, they're doing well. Of course, we've had lots of rain.
The Garia is a nice touch because it adds that little bit of a boundary, but it's so airy and light.
Yes.
It's a nice plant to add here.
It's fun.
And of course, we've got this threshold to go over, this dry creek bed. Is this some of John's handiwork?
My husband, John, is my hardscape guy, and so he's learned how to build so many things, and I love whimsy in the garden.
Yeah.
I just think a garden should be a fun place that draws you in, and so this is our latest arch that he built for me. My old metal one kind of rusted away, so he put this up for me this year, and there's just lots of little fun places in the garden.
It's got some personality to it.
Yeah.
It definitely
and he built
does.
the bridge too.
It's beautiful. And so this is a dry creek bed.
Yes.
And I love your solution. You added some money wart in here because rock's expensive.
Right. Well, I love the look of the rock for the dry stream bed, but just couldn't afford it and didn't want to shovel it all.
Right.
So we just kind of let this grow, and oh my word, it has taken over, and I kind of like the way it looks.
Yeah. Now, does this actually function too to help with some drainage and
Yes,
stuff?
we're on a long slope, and so there's a lot of water that flows through here on those toad strangler rains.
We've had a few, yes, yes, we have.
So this will be completely full when it's raining, but dry the rest of the summer. So it just kind of adds, once again, a little more whimsy to the garden.
Very nice. And so, of course, this leads us to your beautiful vegetable garden here. I love a balance of ornamentals and vegetables, and I recognize some straw bale gardening when I see it.
Yes.
Have you been doing this long? This is beautiful. I love the way you've trellised it.
So, I really have only done the straw bales 3 years, excuse me. Yeah, the first year I tried cages, and that didn't work very well. They kept falling over, and so I did a little research and found these bamboo stakes at a Heavy Garden Supply, and ordered them, and so we trained them up that, pinch all the suckers, and as you can see, they fruit heavily. It's just like grape clusters.
They're
I just
amazing,
love them.
yeah.
But there was another purpose for this. This particular bed is underneath this maple tree, and the roots go crazy. And so my husband didn't want us to cut down the tree, which I understand, but I still wanted to garden. So the straw bales work wonderfully.
Okay.
So by the end of the season, the roots of the tree are starting to come up, but we get to harvest, and then we jerk them all up again and start again. So it's very functional for us.
So it's more of a temporary space for
Yes.
your tomatoes to grow and keeps those roots contained.
There we go. That's it.
Excellent.
They say you can't grow under a tree. Aha!
You're doing it, and it seems like your tomatoes might be enjoying a little of that afternoon shade.
I
just
think
a little
they
bit.
are.
So they're doing quite well. You've got a couple of different varieties in here.
Yes,
it looks like
we have, of course, the little cherry tomatoes, and then some bigger ones for canning. And so I try different varieties all the time just to see which ones I like.
Fantastic. And I love how you've added some pollinator plants in here. And do you do a lot of pollinator gardening?
I do. I think we need to give a hand to the bees and the butterflies.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so much spraying and pesticides and things, so I never use any of that in my garden, and I just let volunteer plants come up. I just think it adds a little bit of beauty, and they, some of them are companion plants, and it just works well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pamela. This has just been a joy. What a surprise to come here and look at a shed and then find this garden.
Thank you.
You must be doing a lot in that shed and out in your garden.
It's my love. It's what I love.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Casey.
Don't website.
In the U.S., we have great difficulty choosing olive oil. We don't know regular from virgin to extra virgin. We don't know enough. We're here to have you educate us on the differences and how to choose.
Ok, allora capisco che abbiate delle difficoltà perché le abbiamo anche noi in Italia.
So what Julius says is that he understands the difficulty in being able to recognize a good product. The first thing he would recommend is to look for extra virgin olive oil. Definitely that's the best quality. And olive oil is a, let's say, byproduct, so definitely less quality. Another factor is price. So if you want to have a good olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, you need to spend a little bit of money because olive oil production is a costly matter. And then there's the four senses involved in the choosing, in the recognizing if an oil is good or bad. The first thing he says, it's color. It has to be a vibrant green color, not a yellowish color. Extra virgin olive oil becomes yellowish when it becomes old. And then smelling the oil and tasting the oil are definitely two other factors. It has to both smell and taste like flowers, vegetables, grass. It has to be spicy and bitter, not sweet, no fatty tastes, no vinegary tastes. That is another way of recognizing a good extra virgin olive oil.
In your discussion earlier when you were speaking with the full group, you talked about the olive oil from different parts of Italy will have different flavors. Can you address that just a little bit? And I think the fascinating thing about that is that when we find one, we shouldn't think that's the only one.
Come ho spiegato, l'unico modo per avere un olio di qualità è partire da un'oliva di qualità.
He says that so many different varieties that we have in Italy, and he thinks in Tuscany alone, in this region where we're now, he thinks it's around 100 different types. It's not of olive oils, it's of olive trees or olives. So it's the genotype that's the difference, that it makes the difference of the taste and of the flavors, of course. All this variety, he says, enriches the olive oil in the sense that there are extra virgin olive oils made with just one olive type, but he thinks they are not the best. It makes for a bit of a flat taste. So if you put together a blend of many different types of variety, this also, all the possible combinations, you result in even more possible extra virgin olive oil flavors. But he also says that even though each production has its own personality, and that's the uniqueness to that oil, there are some certain qualities that have to be respected by every good extra virgin olive oil, which are the ones that he said before: color, the fact of having vegetables or flowery flavors. You might have carrots and artichoke here in Tuscany and maybe tomatoes in Sicily, but it's still a vegetable-y flavor that you will look for in a good olive oil.
Julio, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your expertise, your knowledge with us. I think we'll go forward and make better choices in our markets from now on. Thank you.
È stato un piacere. Se tornano in Italia,
he says you're welcome. It was his pleasure, and if you're ever back in Italy, come visit him at his farm so that he can go forward on step 2 of the lesson.
We would love to.
Thank you.
My name is Roy Stovall. I go to NEO A&M College in Miami, Oklahoma. I'm an ag business major and I'm going into my sophomore year. So this summer I was given the chance to work with the RUU program and Dr. Charles Fontanier, working with turfgrass. And my project is the persistent and comparative water use rates of zoysia grass while they're under shade conditions. So this summer I started, early this June, started to do data collection and maintenance on these plots. And what we're trying to figure out is how well will plants do while they're under shade and how much water they're going to use. Because a big problem with turfgrass in America is that it takes a lot of water to keep them up to par, especially when it comes to golf courses, sports fields, and even home lawns. About 20 to 25% of turfgrass actually has issues with shade, and zoysia grass is one of the more shade-tolerant types of grass that we have. My project is using 11 different zoysia grasses and one Bermuda, and our Bermuda is mainly used as a control. And with our 11 zoysia grasses, we were able to put them in 3 replications and a complete random block design. And we were able to put the shade over the turf. The shade blocks out about 73% of solar radiation, and so that gives us like a more controlled environment. But while it's under the shade, a microclimate is able to begin while underneath and affecting how much water is being used. Under the shade, they may use more or less water, and that's what we're trying to figure out this summer. Starting at the end and working down, we collect data in a snaking pattern. And I do 3 different types of data collection. I do 2 different moisture contents and then 1 visual. But first is a pogo. I will stab it into the ground and it pulls up a little thing like this. It gives me the moisture content, the EC, the salinity index, and the temperature. The second thing I do when I do volumetric water content data is a kind of a stepped process. This is called a PR2. This is what this is, and this is the HH2, which is the moisture meter, or the reader. So I use this probe, and I will stab it into the ground. They're numbered on all the sides, so I know where I started. So I'm trying to get 3 readings with this as well. And the volumetric water content is what we're checking, and that's pretty much the percent of water that's in the ground at the time. We had issues earlier this summer because of a lot of the rain that we got here in Stillwater, and we kind of had to push back my project when it started and everything like that, so we have a dry period. Because we're not checking to see how much rain water that collects and how much runoff we have. We're actually trying to check during that dry period how much water is being used. So the RUE program this summer has been a really great opportunity. It's given me a lot of chances to branch out. I've always been interested in ag, and this has showed me a different side of ag that I really didn't know much about or understand. I was able to learn a lot about horticulture, and turf grasses, hydroponics and aquaponics, and everything that's in that field. We were able to go on a farm tours in Oklahoma City and look at urban farms and different things like that, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been a really good program. I think anybody who's going to do anything in ag should try it and should totally branch out into a different field, whether you are interested in horticulture or not. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but I really did. Dr. Fontanier did a really good job mentoring me and mentoring other students, and so it's been a really great summer, and I'm very happy for it.
Say, go Pokes. Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you a heads up of what I've been up to for the last couple of months and introduce you to little Harrison Eugene Hentges, who was born on July 25th. And of course, you remember Hadley, who was born about 2 years ago. She's grown up quite a bit and is loving being a big sister right now. I can't say that there's anything better to distract me from gardening, but I'm happy to be back and to finish out the season. We've got a little longer left in this season, and I'm excited to be back and enjoying this fall weather. Stick around for more great segments.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. Next week, there will be more garden sheds to explore. Casey will have another Oklahoma-proven plant for the landscape. Turfgrass specialist Justin Moss lets us get a sneak peek at a new turfgrass eradication study. We will make one more stop on our tour of Italy with a primer on pasta, and Barbara will show us how to use the broken bits in a pasta e fagioli. We hope you tune in then for more TV you'll grow to love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Pond Pro Shop, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, and the Tulsa Garden Club.